Hello everybody, I am Victoria Vega and I'm here to present to you my applied assignment post reflection. So, for my agenda here, I will be going over my introduction, my pre-work, my evidence, my new learning, and my continued inquiry. So, for my introduction, my applied assignment of choice was to conduct an observation on one of my DLL kiddos. I picked this because I personally love observing my students. I feel like I personally learn a lot from them. There's a lot of valuable information that can be learned simply just from observing children. And so I really wanted to make that one of my applied assignments for this course. And for my location and with who, I did my observation at my place of work. I currently work in a inclusive preschool classroom within my school district as a paraprofessional. So I got the approval from my lead instructor to do an observation on one of my DLL students, and her name is Alma. So if you hear that name throughout this presentation, I am referring to my DLL student whose name is Alma. So, for my pre-work, what did I know before conducting this observation? Something I did highlight in my pre-work assignment and I want to highlight here is that I did understand and know just from previous observations and just knowledge learned that DLL students often switch languages during play or they use both. So when I mean like this, what I mean when I say this is that they may be speaking English and then suddenly switch to Spanish, which is Alma's home language, so I will be referring to Spanish when I talk about other languages just because that is her home language. And so for her, she'll sometimes be playing in English language and then she'll switch to Spanish, or she'll use a variation of both, where if she doesn't know a word in English, she'll then substitute it with Spanish and then continue the sentence in English. So I did understand and know that prior to conducting this observation, especially with Alma. I already knew that that's something that she did regularly in the classroom, simply because she was either trying to figure out if she was comfortable enough or simply just use of learning the new language, which is English for her. So, what I hope to learn from this observation is simply how Alma interacts with peers despite the language barrier, just on a deeper level. Not that I haven't observed Alma before or know her strengths and her assets in play. However, I've never sat down objectively and observed her. So I was really curious to see things that I hadn't picked up on before regarding some things that she does in play because of her being a DLL. So, some course materials that I found very valuable and I planned to use prior to this observation, and I did use, were the Clearing Your View, Staying Objective, and Observation video that we had in this week's materials. I think this was a perfect week to conduct an observation just due to the subject matter of our materials being assessments and observations for DLLs and in students in general. But I found this video very informative in conducting observation because it really taught us how to be objective and not to bring personal opinions in. And that was something I had to go over in my observation multiple times to ensure that I was being objective, because I so many times caught myself not being objective and putting in personal opinions or feelings. And so that really challenged me, but I really loved using that resource and I plan on really implementing it in future observations. So moving forward to my evidence, I know that my observation notes are really tiny. I had to screenshot it from a very low percentage so that you could see all of my pages. It was almost 3 pages long. It ended up being 3 pages long with my observation in action. However, I did make sure to put the link. There we go. I I wanted to expand the page so you can see the full link. If you are able to click on it, if you're not, I will link it into the Canvas discussion board so you can go look at it for yourself. Those are my observation notes of Alma. And then one of my coworkers was very gracious enough to snap a picture of me in action during the observation. So on the right here, you can see me in action with my computer in the classroom observing Alma in her choice time play. So then moving forward to my new learning, something that I learned that was very valuable in observing Alma and how her being a DLL, it's just how it impacts her daily. I don't think I realized, even just in her simple play, how much it impacted her until doing an objective observation of her. I really learned a lot. And in my evidence of this learning is my observation notes. And within that, if you go in and read, there's a lot of different occurrences of Alma playing with peers and just keeping to herself, in which her either her speech was a little different or she wasn't as confident. So I learned a lot from her in observing her in her play during choice time with this objective observation. So how this connects to our course is, again, through that clearing your view, staying objective in observation, is really applying that objective observation when observing students. And then I wanted to link back to our lesson 1 resources of why supporting, specifically in this resource, supporting California's language learner why it matters. However, in that video, it really explains the importance of really supporting our DLLs, and that really linked back to Alma, and why doing things like this observation and other assignments that we will continue to do in this course is so important when supporting our DLLs to better understand them, their needs, their culture, how they play a viable role in our classroom. All of those things connect to this course, but connect directly to our DLL students. And so I really want to use tools like observation to better understand and learn my DLL students so that they can be successful learners in my current and my future classrooms. So my continued inquiry, so new questions I have after completing this assignment is how I can take the information I learned about Alma and better support her in other areas in the classroom. So how can I use that information in the observation that I saw, such as the lack of confidence or maybe not so much of a formal speech, and how I can help her in other areas in the classroom to improve this? And how can I now use that information not only to observe other peers objectively within the classroom who are DLL, but also monolingual students who aren't DLL. However, also this kind of observation can be so crucial. So I love how I can use this not only on my DLL students, which is very important. However, it's also important that I can use it on other students as well. And it's something I really want to take. It's something I really enjoyed learning, was that objective observation. So I want to, again, continue to observe students regularly and frequently to gain that information. And questions I have for you guys as my peers is, after watching this presentation, as I'm wrapping it up here, what are some suggestions you can give me to better understand my observation? This could be better understanding Alma's mannerisms and her reactions and information I learned from the observation, or even how I can use this observation to better support Alma in the classroom. And then I guess a question I also have for you guys is, what is something that you've personally learned from your experience observing with DLL students? Or if you don't have experience observing DLL students, what is some of your experience that you've learned observing students in general? And how could this information that you have gained be useful for my own journey with observation and observing and supporting DLL students? So I really appreciate your time and taking it to view my presentation, and I really look forward to hearing your thoughts, and I look forward to viewing your guys' presentations. So Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.